My name is Alina Whitmore, and I am 75 years old. 18 months ago, my son slid a piece of paper across the table and said, "Sign this. Sell the house to your granddaughter for $250,000, or from today, you are no longer part of this family." $250,000 for a house worth $750,000. The house my late husband and I built together, the house I had lived in for 43 years. They thought I would cry. They thought I would crumble. What they did not know was that before that family meeting even took place, I had already made a phone call that would change everything. Growing up in this family meant living in the shadow of the golden child. My daughter Patricia never hid her preference for Madison, her ambitious, driven daughter. At dinner tables, during holidays, in front of relatives, the comparisons were constant. Madison would go far. I was the quiet mother who stayed home, raised children, and kept the house running. When I chose to spend my later years caring for my own ailing mother instead of chasing status, the disappointment was palpable. But when Madison landed her position at Mercer and Associates, a prestigious real estate firm, the family could not stop talking about it. I became furniture in my own family, present but unnoticed. Then my mother, the original Alina, fell ill, stage 4 cancer. Madison was too busy. Patricia and her husband came once, stayed 45 minutes, and never returned. "It's too hard to see her like this," my daughter said, "so I made a choice. I took over the care." For 5 years, I lived in the guest room of that Victorian house, administering medications, cooking favorite meals, holding her hand through the long nights. My mother passed away on a Tuesday morning with her hand in mine. "I've prepared everything for you," she whispered. "Don't let anyone take it away." 3 weeks later, the will was read. The Victorian house at 847 Maple Street, market value $750,000, was left entirely to me, the only one who stayed. The silence in the lawyer's office was deafening. Patricia's face went pale. Madison's perfectly manicured fingers curled into fists. "There must be some mistake," Madison said. "Grandma wasn't thinking clearly." The attorney removed his glasses. "I assure you, your grandmother was fully competent." Walking out of that office, I felt Madison's eyes on my back like I was the enemy. The pressure started 3 days later. Patricia and her husband showed up without calling. "We need to talk about the house," my son-in-law began. "It's not right, one person keeping all of this. Family should share." Madison needed a place for her future, marriage, children. "You're a retired woman," Patricia said. "You don't need a house like this." Madison is building something. Every day for 2 weeks they returned. Threats from my son-in-law, tears from Patricia. "If you don't share this with Madison, you won't have a family anymore." I lay awake doing the math. Selling at their price meant losing $500,000 and the last piece of my mother's life. Refusing meant losing my family. Then I realized something important. I could lose my family, but I could not lose myself. They called a family meeting. It felt like an ambush. The sales agreement was already drafted, $250,000. "It's family price," Patricia said. Madison laughed. "Do you even know what market value means? I work in this industry." "Trust me, 250 is generous." The conversation circled like a predator. Every objection met a counter. Finally, my son-in-law said, "This is a family decision." Madison stepped closer. "It was Grandma's house. You just happened to be standing in it when she died." After they left, Patricia stayed behind and performed the tears. "You're tearing this family apart. Family is blood. Family is forever." She gave me 1 week. "After that, don't bother calling me mom anymore." That night Madison called at midnight. Her voice was cold. "This little standoff is cute, but you need to know who you're dealing with. I have connections, lawyers, contractors, city officials. It would be a shame if someone started raising questions about a certain elderly woman's competence." I sat in the darkness for a long time. Then I opened the sealed envelope my mother had left me. Inside was a letter and a business card for Linda Torres, an attorney who specialized in creative real estate solutions. "Sometimes the smartest grip is the loosest one," my mother had written. I called Linda the next morning. She listened to everything. Then she asked, "Have you ever heard of a sale-leaseback agreement? You sell at full market value but negotiate a long-term lease. The buyer gets an investment property. You get the money and the right to keep living there." Linda paused. "Mercer and Associates is actively searching for a property in your exact neighborhood. Their CEO wants a satellite office. Your house would be perfect." The irony was almost too perfect. Madison worked for the company whose CEO needed exactly what I told Linda to set up the meeting. Jonathan Mercer was not what I expected: tall, silver-haired professional. He walked through the house asking thoughtful questions. When we settled into chairs, he said, "Full market value with a 15-year leaseback. It works for what I have in mind." I told him the truth. Certain people were trying to take the property through pressure. He nodded. "I don't make decisions based on employee-family drama. I make them based on value." He already knew Madison was my granddaughter. It did not matter. I signed. $750,000, $15 year lease. I would still wake up every morning in my mother's house. 4 weeks later, the invitation arrived at Madison's desk. Company-wide launch of the new satellite office at 847 Maple Street. On the evening of the event, I stood at the window and watched the catering trucks arrive. Cars filled the driveway. Then Madison's silver Mercedes pulled up. She stepped out, checking her phone. Then she looked up. The confusion, the disbelief, the horror on her face is something I will never forget. "Hello, Madison," I called. "Welcome to the new office." Jonathan Mercer took the podium and publicly thanked me for the professional, creative deal. Applause filled the room. He announced that senior project managers, including Madison, would rotate through this office weekly. Madison stood frozen while her colleagues stared. My children arrived within the hour, furious. "You sold the house to outsiders," my son-in-law shouted. "I sold it at fair market value and negotiated a lease that lets me stay," I answered. "Madison threatened my security first. I simply made sure I had options." For the first time, my son-in-law had no reply. Word spread through the company. Madison could not complain to HR. She could not avoid the office. Every Tuesday and Thursday, her car pulled into my driveway. I made sure to be visible, watering the garden, collecting the mail, drinking coffee on the porch. Her colleagues noticed. The whispers, the glances, the shift in how people treated her. The loss of control was the worst part for her. 3 months of silence followed. Then my daughter called. Her voice was smaller. "I just wanted to check on you. The garden looks just like when your mother was alive." It was not an apology, but it was a crack. We began having lunch once a month. She asked about my days. She listened. My son-in-law kept his distance, but he nodded when he saw me. Madison and I exist in a careful truce. Sometimes she waves when she walks past the porch. I wave back. A year later, I still wake up in the house my mother loved. The ground floor hums with office activity during the day. At 5 o'clock, the silence returns, my silence, my peace. $750,000 sits safely in my accounts. But the real victory is walking through my own front door without fear. The real victory is knowing no one can force me out of what is rightfully mine. Quiet strength is not about shouting louder. It is about knowing your value so deeply that no one can convince you to sell it short. My mother did not just leave me a house. She left me a blueprint for how to protect myself. The most powerful response to injustice is not anger or revenge. It is a decision made with clarity, executed with precision, and defended with absolute certainty. Sometimes the quietest signatures speak louder than the loudest arguments. Thank you for watching Hidden Truth Revenge. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment and tell me where you are watching from. You have the right to protect what is yours. You always did. All characters, conflicts, and events are fictional and created only for entertainment and educational purposes.